Hello everyone, welcome to another video, and if you find our video great, give us a subscribe for more awesome content. What's the worst thing that's happened to one of your friends? A few winters back, my friend was driving and merged uphill onto an interstate overpass. He hit a patch of black ice on the ramp and went into a skid. His truck ending up slamming parallel into the guardrail, and he wasn't wearing his seatbelt. He's a big dude, college football player at the time, and the force of the impact sent him clean through the driver door and off the overpass. He fell 40 feet and landed on the highway below that he'd just left. Amazingly, no spinal or cerebral damage, but basically the whole left side of his body was shattered. Pelvis, elbow, 5 ribs were all broken, huge hole in his diaphragm, torn urethra. He was in a bad way. 3 weeks of medically induced coma and 8 procedures later he pulled through. 8 months after that, the madman made it back on the football field for his senior year of college, practically a cyborg at that point with all of the hardware in his body. Doctors are pretty sure he only lived because he was in such good shape at the time of the accident. He always wears his seatbelt now, as should you. I had 3 friends on the Alaska Airlines plane that crashed off San Diego. Edit because this got lots of response. Thanks all for the condolences. Even worse, they were returning from a trip where 2 of them got engaged to each other. It's been so long that it was very matter of fact for me. I just remembered, oh yeah, this was pretty bad, and added it to the list. At the time it certainly messed me up, though unfortunately other deaths had jaded me a bit. It took a while, but friends and I did fly Alaska again. Corruption at Alaska caused the crash, but there were also pilots for Alaska that fought their ass off to try to save everyone. Forgiveness, in a larger sense. Fuck the individuals that signed off on the maintenance orders, is a better emotion to tie to their memories. Went swimming in a lake and got tangled in a bunch of weeds and drowned. R.I.P. Dan. He died of a seizure in the middle of the night. The worst part was he was going to see a neurologist the next day about his sudden onset of seizures. R.I.P. Tommy. Murdered by an unknown person. There was some extremely shady shit going on at the time. They found her dead in bed with the front door wide open. 28 years on, I still miss her so much. A friend of mine was murdered, shot 14 times. He was left for dead on somewhat remote road. He was 15. My best friend was shot point blank in the head by her husband, and then he killed himself. She survived with no long-term damage. 2 of my good friends, twins, got in a car accident. They were upside down in a wooded area. The one brother died instantly, while the other was upside down for 3 hours until someone saw their car. And I miss you. Me and my 3 other friends were longboarding down this highway, and suddenly one of my friend crashed into a tree head first. For some reason his helmet went off before impact. We managed to get him to a hospital as fast as possible. He suffered ICH, went into a coma and died 2 hours later. This happened 4 years ago, May 28th. There's a really good friend of mine that was driving his girlfriend at the time and got hit by a drunk driver. Only fatality of that accident was my friend's GF. It's been about 10-15 years and he still doesn't drive. That shit destroyed him. He is still a happy dude, but it isn't the same for real. Just broke. My friend had another good friend of ours die in his arms after being shot 3 times from a drive-by. Even to this day, 9 years later, he feels like that they were meant for him and lives with some guilt. I had a friend who I went through elementary school and middle schools with. He moved away in the middle of 7th grade and our friend group was heartbroken, but figured we'd see him again. Last week, he was shot in the head by his friend who was showing him a gun and pointed it at him as a joke. He was 18. One of my friends was sliding down a railing that was next to a ground storm drain made of concrete. He slipped backwards and cracked his skull open. It was near midnight and we were pretty close to a hospital, so I just kinda picked him up and ran. I hope I never see the inside of someone's head up close again. Edit. Since people keep asking me if my friend is still alive, he is, and is doing much better. One of my friends just lost her almost 2-year-old child in a drowning accident. She's utterly devastated. A friend in high school was hit by a car and dragged a couple of 100 yards before he died. The driver was drunk and on coke. It was 8 a.m. when it happened. My friend was on his way to school. Tried to swim to shore from a sailboat in Lake Michigan. She was a strong swimmer, but even in the summer hypothermia is a threat. They didn't find her body for several weeks, and during that time famous fake psychic Sylvia King Brown told the family she was alive and being held on a boat against her will. Still miss you, Julie. He and his brother were away at college. His father fell asleep with a cigar in hand, and the house began to burn. So far as could be determined, the father woke, went to get his wife, carried her downstairs, and made it to within a couple feet of the door. They both died, and the house was destroyed. Finished a workout at the gym and collapsed on his way out. Brain aneurysm. He was dead 6 days later. His girlfriend, who he had a 3-year-old daughter with, one day just grabbed everything and the kid and left for a different country, leaving no trace behind her. That was 15 years ago, and my friend has been looking for his daughter non-stop. He has a blog where he posts letters for her to find in case she ever Googles her name, but it points out that the mother changed her identity and the daughter's. I can't imagine how that feels. Edit. Guy didn't expect this to blow up. First of all, I don't know why she left. I don't know if it was domestic violence, but he doesn't seem to be violent at all. He seems very sweet. This didn't happen in the US, it happened in a South American country, and the girl took off to Brazil. My friend did hire a couple of PI, and they both told him all they found was her name at the registration office at the border, and then it's like she vanished. He did everything he could, such as going to TV shows and the newspaper, but the girl's family told him to stop showing his daughter's face in the media as she is still a minor, she's turning 18 at the end of the year, and that he was committing a crime, so he stopped showing her or using her full name. The girl's family don't want to give any data, they just told him that he will never find her, that's why he thinks she changed hers and his daughter's name. She's not in social media. And sorry, the blog is in Spanish and I don't really want to share it as it has a lot of personal info on him. I don't want to send a mob to it. I really didn't expect this would get so much attention. For now he's waiting for her daughter to turn 18 and he will start to look for her in the media again. I will let him know the Reddit family can help him with the search. Hope you guys understand. My friend was found after not breathing for 10+ minutes. They got his heart started again and he lived for a few more years, but he never walked or talked again. He broke several bones as a child. At age 9 he was hit by a car and shattered his pelvis. Then in school on the first day of 5th grade he fell off the monkey bars and broke both arms in a gruesome manner. A friend of mine's father dropped dead in the middle of her sister's 5th birthday party. 1 minute eating cake and playing games, dead on the floor the next. It was a blood clot or an aneurysm. After he died, her mom tried to get custody of the 3 kids. She was a terrible mom who had lost full custody years earlier. Thankfully tons of family were able to help out, and her stepmom, who is a fantastic person, finally got custody. While dealing with all of this, she relied heavily on her high school boyfriend. He was then diagnosed with leukemia and was dead within 6 months of her father. Thankfully she had a great therapist at the time. Stepmom paid for it even before dad passed to help deal with the trauma from her mom. She's now in her early 30s and has become a therapist herself. I was on a Skype call in 2014 with a friend I had met when I was at school in Japan. She casually brought up that she hadn't heard from her dad in a couple of weeks after he went on a work trip to the Middle East. He was a journalist and this was when ISIS was at its height. A few months later a video of him being held hostage by ISIS was released on Facebook. After the Japanese government failed to coordinate an effect exchange agreement with the Turkish government in time, a video of him being beheaded was released. My friend later told me that she forced herself to watch the video. He was kidnapped never to be seen again. I miss him. Edit. We worked together and the owners had businesses with drug dealers. Actually one of the owners was killed years prior. I quit in September 2015 and I begged him to quit. It wasn't worth it, he replied. Dude, there are no jobs, I cannot simply quit. In November him and another former co-worker, with whom I wasn't too close with, went to see a terrain for the owners. Nobody knew what happened, probably the owners, but they didn't really cared. Some hinted he isn't necessarily dead, but the options are, he became a hitman against his own will or he became a slave. Not really better tbh. She worked as a bartender and her fiancé came in drunk out of his mind and acting strange. She had to tell him she couldn't serve him. He left upset. She went home a few hours later and found him trying to rape her teen daughter. My friend fought him. He cut open her face from forehead to chin. She said she could see her own facial bones. He held them hostage for hours. She knocked him out with a bat and carried her daughter banging on all the neighbors' doors. Finally someone opened up and got the cops. He was on the run for a while but finally caught. Her piece of shit ex-fiancé was sentenced to 58 years. She has a huge deep scar on her face. Her daughter is still a sweet young lady who has kept a positive mindset. People who break into cars are generally not the kind of people with well-documented, traceable identities. They're at the bottom. And the good ones can get it done without leaving a meaningful trace, anyway. So they don't have much to lose and can get away with anything. So if you're like my friend, and you see someone breaking into your car at 1 a.m. behind a strip mall with no cameras, you shouldn't get involved. But if you were my friend that night, you decide to confront the bastard. And you get stabbed to death. And there are no leads.